job is. Now I want to get into this other story that is really, really amazing. How many of you, do you all remember the lady by the name of Rachel Dolezal? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that last name right.
Yeah, I didn't know who she was until I read the story about it, but yeah, I remember her.
Okay. Well, Rachel Dolezal, and like I said, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that right, but it's possible that I'm not. But she was the lady, if you remember here, it's been, I guess, six years ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
2015, yeah. In 2015, she was the woman, she was the president of I think the local chapter of the NAACP. Right. Yep. Let me just read the first part of this story. It's she was the one that was a Caucasian woman, a white woman, that pretended and posed to be black. Okay, so let me read this, and it's in quote. The first word of the headline is transracial. Rachel Dolezal whines that she can't get a job. That's the headline of the story. Transracial Rachel Dolezal whines that she can't get a job. She says she's been turned down from maid and casino jobs. This was an educated lady.
Right, yeah.
She was a professor, if I'm not mistaken. But it says here, infamous race faker Rachel Dolezal, the white woman who was outed for pretending to be black in 2015, still insists she's African American and complained in a recent interview she's been unable to secure a job for 6 years. Now, this lady's 43 years old. If you read down through the story, it talks about how she has applied for everything. Mm-hmm. She's applied for the casino jobs, as it was said in the subtitle. She's applied for maids, and no one's calling her back. Now, what I want you to pay close attention to is in this article is the wording that it is used. Mm-hmm. One thing that we have to understand when we are analyzing news stories is that we need to understand that bias from the writers is right there.
Right.
It is right there in the midst of what they're talking about. And so with that in mind, I'm going to accent a few of these words. Let me read that just opening paragraph real quick and see if you can get where the mindset is of the writer of this story. Go back to the title. Transracial Rachel Dolezal whines that she can't get a job. You know? And then continues, infamous race faker Rachel Dolezal, the white woman who was outed for pretending to be black in 2015, still insists she's African American and complained in a recent interview she's been unable to secure a job for 6 years. Now, can you see any type of bias from the writer in there? Can you see where she falls on this issue? I mean, she is obviously anti-Rachel Dolezal, right?
Or transracial, anti-transracial.
Yeah, she could be transracial phobic.
Yeah. Couldn't think of the word.
Yeah, maybe that's...
Just make it up on the fly. Transracial phobic.
Isn't that what they do?
Isn't
that what they do? All right, so reading down through this story. Dolezal, who identifies as transracial, someone who identifies with a certain race, even if their biology is different.
Follow the science.
What's that?
Follow the science.
Thank you, Joe.
Come on, man.
And it says here she's mother of three, former NAACP leader, doubled down on her perceived black identity. If you read on down in 2015, it says this. In 2015, Dolezal, who taught Africana studies at Eastern Washington University, was outed as a race faker. This is not the headline anymore, and this is not the podium paragraph. This is on down through the story, so you're seeing it again. Was outed as a race faker after a local news reporter unearthed photos of her as a child and spoke to her parents, who were unequivocally Caucasian. Ain't no doubt that they are white, is what she's saying. And then the last line of this story reads as this. It says, she was ousted from her jobs and widely criticized for her dishonesty.
Well, yeah.
Uh-huh.
She was the president of the NAACP as a white woman.
Yeah, and she was teaching Africana studies. You know,
Good gracious.
So nobody knew that she was black until
No.
after.
and I think, you know, if memory serves, I think her parents actually outed her.
Oh, jeez.
Showing pictures of her as she was a child and stuff.
That'd be confusing. A white baby, black woman.
Huh? Oh, yeah. So here's my question. Why is it dishonest for Rachel Dolezal to identify as a black woman being white when it's perfectly acceptable for boys to identify as girls?
Right. Yeah.
And for girls to identify as boys? Can anybody not see a double standard here? Is it just me?
Mm-hmm. I see it.
That makes no sense to me. Because again, you read this article. If I was a betting man and I'm not, hey man, I want to try to be as wise as I can with what God gives me. But if I were a betting man, my guess would be that the writer of this story, who is so she is so transracial phobic, she probably celebrates the LGBTQ movement. I feel quite certain.
Wonder if we can find articles that.
You know, we probably could, but I didn't. As I said earlier, and I want to remind you that these articles, every article that we will cite here is listed on our website. If you go to www.gngr.live, if you go there and scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see weekly podcast notes or some link like there. If you click on that, it'll give you the headlines to the articles and links to them so that you can read these stories for yourself. And so this is one of them, but it doesn't say in the way I printed this out, it does not say the author's name, but we can certainly get that for you. If you want to text, you can text at 304-916-7845, or you can call in to the show on that number as well. But we can get you the article name, but even better than that, you can go there and you can read it for yourself. But that's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand, how this is so rejected by our society today. But yet the delusion of boys being girls and girls being boys, and then people being some type of in between. I don't even understand how someone could come up with a word called cisgender. You know, that just doesn't make, none of that makes any sense to me. But why is that being so widely publicized and so accepted by our society and even within the church? Let me tell you what, Christian. God made people a certain way.
I'll circle.
Let's end the politics and follow the science.
We'll circle back to that, but we need to end the politics, follow the science. God made them. Let's just follow the science. It's very easy. Man, it is very easy to figure out if you're a boy or girl.
Look down.
I agree.
That's all you have to do, right? That's all you have to do. And so if we're going to end the politics and follow the science, we really need to follow the science and just ask ourselves that question, which would lead me to another point, and I'm not going to get into it right now. But what has happened with the transgender and all that stuff, with the sodomic, all the branches of sodomy. I guess that's the best way I can term it. All the branches of sodomy. That's the biblical word. Don't like that word, get mad at God, not me. But all the branches, all the things that are sprouting out of that type of doctrine, whether it's the trans, and the cross-dress and all that stuff, all of that's branching out. It was taboo. It was taboo 40 years ago.
Right.
It was even so, there was such a wall built up against that type of mentality, even during President Obama's time in office, to where he and Hillary Clinton, when they were running for office, they said they didn't think that a man and woman ought to be married.
Right, yep.
And so we're talking that this doctrine that is being forced upon us in America, forced upon Christians, we are taught that this is acceptable and it's okay. And if you feel any other way, you're transphobic, right? You're not transphobic, homophobic, lesbophobic. I don't know. I don't know what all terminology you got there.
Every phobic.
But you're phobic, and you are, you have such a, you're called names, and you're demeaned, and you're spoken of because you simply believe what God says about the subject and not what, what our society says. And so we've been bullied, is what it boils down to. Christians have been bullied into accepting this, and I, for one, am not going to be bullied by it.
I'm not going to accept it or be bullied.
Christians, we ought not to allow ourselves to be bullied by this doctrine, because I'm going to tell you what, it's not going to stop here. It does not stop at the sodomy section of it. It continues on to other perversions. And one of the perversions that is being looked at and being examined and taking the same road as the sodomites have done over the last 40 years is that of pedophilia.
Right, yeah. It's coming down the pipeline.
Absolutely. There's organizations out there, NAMBLA is one of them, that are pushing, and they're pushing along the same talking points as the sodomite agenda, and that is, hey, what's love? Love is love, right? Isn't that what we hear? Love is love. And if a man wants to love another man, then love is love. If a woman wants to love another woman, love is love. If a man wants to love a boy, love is love. That's exactly the talking points that they're using. So, listen, if we don't get something about us and stand up against perversion, we're in a world of hurt.
Right, yeah.
We're in a world of hurt. And I say it's coming down the pike, evidently, for everybody except for Rachel Dolezal.
Right, yeah.
It's not coming down the pike for her.